Did you know October is Augmented and Alternative Communication Month? Here to tell us more about what this means and its importance is Tiffany Hammond, who is just about to release her first children's book called A Day with No Words, a story inspired by her son. We're happy to have her. Tiffany, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Let's talk about AAC, Augmented and Alternative Communication, and how it's connected to the autism community. Let's put those dots together for people.
Yeah, so AAC is, like you said, Augmented and Alternative Communication, and that just means any communication that exists outside of speech. So you can type, you could spell, you could use pictures, you can use letter boards, any sign language, anything that's outside of speech. And it's important to the autism community because I think it's estimated between 35% and 45% are either non-speaking or they have unreliable speech. And so they use a lot of AAC methods of communication. So right now my son uses an iPad with an app, and he's also learning to spell to communicate as well. So he's kind of using both of those methods right now, and it's really important because it gives them a voice. Yeah. And you're able to see their personality and their humor and their, know what they want and their needs, and it's incredibly important to this population and to others who struggle with speech.
Absolutely, and I can imagine the frustration when you cannot get your point across, even though you're trying your absolute best. Yes. So we're talking a little bit here about your son, Aidan. He's 18. He's actually the person that this book is modeled upon. But you also have another son, Josiah. Can you just tell me a little bit about him as well?
Yeah, Josiah, he's 16. He also has autism, but he is verbal. It's more situationally, so it just depends on how comfortable he is, what the environment is like, and that determines whether he is able to speak in those situations. But he is verbal, and when he does speak, we often need like dictionaries to keep up with him, or like looking up stuff because he learns so much, he absorbs so much.
Wow.
And he's like his brother in that way, even though his brother doesn't speak, and for many years people assumed that that he was unintelligent and that he didn't want to learn, or that it was too difficult for him to learn. And we're learning that that's not the case, that he's been absorbing all these years. He's 18 years old, and that's 18 years of hearing people talk around him, watching shows around him, listening to music, all of that, and he's absorbed all of that, and he's just now showing us everything that he's learned all those years.
Explosion. Yeah. I will say we've gotten to see a couple pictures of him on TV there, and he has just this megawatt smile. I mean, such a bright smile. So you have to know you've done something right, at least when you see the smile. Right. Let's talk about how you became a developmental psychologist because of your children. I thought you just happened to have this very convenient background. Yeah. Chicken or the egg, though. You understood when raising your boys that you'd like to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, it was, I had already finished my bachelor's, and it was probably like 5 or 6 years later after I got my bachelor's that I was sitting around and I was like, I want to get my master's, but I want to get it in developmental psychology because I want to learn more about, my children, and I went into it being like curious, and and a lot of people in science and stuff, and with the autism community, it's always, they feel like people are trying to fix them. And I wanted out of curious mind, I wanted to learn more about my kids and kind of combine what I knew of them with what science is telling us, and see if they mixed together, or if there's some points where they varied. And I enjoyed getting that degree, and I feel like I feel like it helps me out a little.
Sure, more empathy, more sympathy as a mom, understanding where your boys are coming from. So, okay, let's make sure we talk about the book, A Day with No Words. I asked if this was pseudo-biographical, and you said it's actually a bunch of days that you have truly lived with Aidan that you have based this on.
Yep, it's a We started these days when he was 9 years old or so. And they were inspired by his brother. His brother like came home one day and he was just like, why don't we just talk like Aidan talks? And it just kind of like clicked. And I was like, hey, let's try it. And we started really small. It was like 30 minutes at a time. And then we would only do it in the house. And then as we did more of the days, we expanded the time, and then we went outside, and then we did it with like the community, and I wrote about it one day. I was on social media one day, and I was like, I don't have anything to say today. And so I was like, well, let me just write about, these days we had, and that post kind of just like took off. I wasn't expecting it to like kind of blow up the way that it did. And when I was approached by an editor, and they were like, hey, you look like you write children's books. And I was like, I don't. And they were like, hey, write it about this. And long story short, our connection didn't last, but the book idea was still in my head. So when I had the opportunity to write the book, I was like, I already have the idea. And so like I just combined a bunch of experiences that we had in the community, in real life, and going to restaurants and getting his favorite meal, and going to the park, and even some of there's like a scene in there where it's like a confrontation between us being outside and another family, because they don't always like kind of like understand autism, and so we face a lot of negativity and stuff, and I was like, I need to include that in the book. Like,
because this is real life.
Yeah. And everything that happens, in that book came pulled from, our life. And I got to work with the amazing Kate Cosgrove, and we got to go back and forth on
beautiful
everything.
Pictures.
Yeah, I was like, he wears this, he does this, he wears glasses. Like, it was all like, my iPad is this color, my son's iPad is this color. Like, making sure that we were on the same page. And her child also has autism, so it felt like her having that connection made it work.
Absolutely. Okay, we're in our last 20 seconds or so, but what do you want parents and kids, even neurotypical kids, to take away from reading this book?
I want them to know that, people with autism are human just like them. They just connect with the world in a different way. And to also look at their own experiences, and that they don't always communicate with speech either all the time. You're texting, you're writing letters, you're waving, and I wanted them to see all those ways that they communicate without talking, and how it's accepted and it's understood, and to take that understanding and extend it, to my child and to others like them. So.
Yeah. Really eloquently said. Big hi to your boys from all of us here at Studio 512. And thank you, Tiffany, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Congrats
for having
on the
me.
book.
Thank you.
All right, pre-order your copy of Tiffany's book right now at adaywithnowords.com.